All right, we are recording the meeting and we're going to go ahead and get started. We have James Gomez from Nelson Nygaard that is going to be handling the presentation this evening. And again, just a reminder that you are muted, and at the end you'll be able to ask questions and feedback. So I'm going to go ahead and let James get started. We have a presentation for you.
All right, thank you and good evening. Thank you for attending this evening's presentation meeting. My name is James Gomez. I'm with Nelson Nygaard Consulting Associates. We are a transportation planning firm that led development of the CityLink on the Move plan and work closely with Joe and Emily throughout the study. The project was initiated in April of last year. We got started and did some data collection. Every single route in the system, we collected ridership data for every single bus stop, all 20 routes, and did a review of every single bus stop in the system to get a better understanding of just how the bus service is designed in the service area. Next slide, please. Okay, thanks. All right, so the thing that we were going to begin our presentation talking about is just what is CityLink on the Move? What are some of the goals of the study, as well as what are various things that we looked at as part of the study? Then we will provide an overview of the proposed changes, and we would be happy to answer any questions after that that you may have regarding any of the route or schedule changes. So what is CityLink on the Move? As I mentioned, this is a study that got started in April of last year and was completed about a year ago. We looked at ridership for every single bus stop, every route, every trip in the system. Also went out and just reviewed all the different destinations across the service area, all 20 routes, and also looked at the schedules and how convenient they are for riders today. And we also came up with opportunities to improve the routes and schedules so that they can better serve the communities. In addition to just looking at the data, the numbers, and getting out on the ground and looking at all of the stops and routes, we also talked with many passengers. We held outreach sessions at the downtown transit center. Photo in the center is evidence of that. Back in July of last year, June of last year, we had 2 sessions at the transit center that spanned multiple hours, both in the morning and then afternoon, and as well as the afternoon, and talked to riders about some of the proposed changes. We also got some feedback from them in ways that CityLink can improve service in the future, and also asked for very specific comments regarding bus stops or schedules, different challenges that they're facing with the bus service and ways that we might be able to improve them. So we asked about suggestions as well.
James, I'm sorry. I apologize. It looks like people are having issues. I know I'm on my cell phone and we're not showing the new slides as they come through. So I'm not sure what, if it's just behind or what. Okay. Now it looks like it is updating on my screen on my phone. So, but I did have one of the other attendees say that they were having issues seeing it. So we'll try to go from here and see if it's working. So sorry for interrupting.
Okay, no worries. Thanks for letting me know, Emily. So in addition to talking to riders directly at the transit center, we also had public meetings at different community centers and libraries in downtown Peoria, East Peoria, North Peoria, as well as Pekin. In June, we talked to riders there as well, showed them maps of some of the proposed changes, and also got their feedback on specific issues such as bus stops, and asked them how CityLink should improve service in the future. Some of the things that we heard from riders, as well as observations that we had, were that current service is not very frequent during the weekday midday period. So roughly from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Service is infrequent on many of the core routes, such as routes 1 and 10 and 20, they tend to be rather full during those times. During the morning and afternoon, they have more bus service, so that's less of a concern. But during the middle part of the day, they just are not as convenient, and so that was one issue. Another is the late night service. Today, all routes run every 75 minutes after roughly 6 p.m. So that's fairly infrequent as compared to during the day. And then we also heard comments about weekend service, the way that some routes just do not operate at all on weekends, resulting in riders having to walk longer distances to catch other routes at different bus stops to get to where they need to go. So looking at expanding Saturday and Sunday service over time is something else that's in the plan. And Emily, can you see the next screen now with the goals of the study? Okay, so
I'll try. Something is not right on our end with this PowerPoint, with sharing the screen. So let me just try to get back in there.
Should
All right,
be
I went to the next slide and it's still not showing up on my phone, so.
okay. I think
Go ahead, James, try changing slides again. We stopped private mode, so that should keep us all together with you.
Okay.
Do you see the slides updating with us?
I am on goals of the study.
It's showing on my screen that we're on goals of the study, but on the screen on the computer, we have the next slide up.
Okay. So some of the different goals that we're trying to meet are increasing system ridership. So across the board, trying to make service more convenient so that more people would actually want to take CityLink and that it works for them at times when they need it and takes them to places they need to go, so that it can serve all of their needs. And also making service more efficient and more effective. CityLink only has so many buses, so many bus operators to drive those buses, and so many hours to run service, which comes at a high cost. So trying to make the best use of those limited resources and put service where it can benefit the highest number of residents possible was another goal of the study. We also just want to make transit better for the community. So as I mentioned, take people where they want to go. And it's not just about the routes and the schedules, but also bus stops, information. Those are other key factors that play into just how transit is experienced by the community. And the recommendations that we have, although they are focused on changes in the short term, in 2021, there are also recommendations to grow the system over the next several years. So now moving forward to some of the results of the study. So for the first phase of the study, we're looking at several route and schedule changes that would improve access to key destinations, such as different employment centers and grocery stores. Something that we heard very early on was the lack of grocery stores in South Peoria. With the closure of a couple of grocery stores in recent years, it means that people have to go downtown to make connections to get elsewhere in the community to get their groceries. So we wanted to have at least one route that provided a direct link from South Peoria to a major grocery store that would be along the Sterling corridor, the Kroger. And so that was one key improvement in that area, trying to provide direct access to a specific need. Also looking at different ways of serving Northwoods Mall, a mall that has been in some ways overshadowed by other newer developments in other parts of Peoria, such as the shops at Grand Prairie. So trying to balance the needs of multiple employment centers and shopping destinations across the entire service area, and also serve some of those outlying destinations such as the shops and such as Kroger and Walmart stores on the north end of Peoria, later in the evening when employees need transit service to get back home. And so those are things that we're also trying to do with the route changes, trying to update the entire route network so that it serves the needs of residents today, not in the past. Another key recommendation and an improvement is improving the midday service on 4 of the core routes. Routes 1 and 10 are the 2 highest ridership routes. They tend to be the busiest. And we wanted to have 30-minute service throughout the day on those routes. Route 7 is one that would see some changes in South Peoria, and it serves many neighborhoods with high ridership. That is another route that would have 30-minute service throughout the day, as well as Route 13, South Adams. So there would be 2 routes in South Peoria that run 30 minutes all the day. You really do not need a schedule. The buses would run more frequently than they do today. As far as later service goes, there are a couple of routes that shut off fairly early in the evening, and we want to extend those later at night until at least 9 p.m. so that, as I mentioned earlier, employees have an opportunity to take transit back home and not have to catch a ride, and people just have more flexibility with doing things such as running errands. Increasing Sunday service is something that's relatively low cost because it's only 1 day a week. So that was another goal of the initial recommendations for 2021. So moving on to the next slide, overall, just to simplify, the proposed route changes will result in more direct service, fewer transfers, and less duplication, meaning that some of the routes that today are very close to one another. An example of that would be right in the center of the map, routes 6 and 10 are only about 4 blocks away. So it's a relatively short distance. We're looking at wanting to space some routes out. As far as fewer transfers, that's where we would be looking to avoid having to take people downtown to transfer to get to key places that we know they want to get to, such as grocery stores. And then more direct service. Over time, many of the routes have been adjusted to serve newer destinations. And while that benefits some folks, that also means that others have to travel a longer period of time to get to their ultimate destination. So making the routes more faster from end to end would benefit more riders than it would negatively impact. The next slide shows the actual changes. So we can toggle between those two if you'd like. And one thing that I want to point out first is that the 4 routes that would run every 30 minutes all day long are shown in a thicker line type. So Route 1, right down the middle of the map on University Street, is one of the core routes operated by CityLink. It travels as far north as the Walmart Supercenter and Peoria North Branch Library. That's a route that does really well today, and it would only see a couple of minor changes. Overall, it would just have more frequent service and just have a couple of schedule tweaks. Route 10 is another route that runs that carries a lot of people. It would be upgraded during that midday time period from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. as well. And it would also be shifted from North Street, which is just north of downtown, over east just about 4 blocks to Knoxville Avenue. And the reason for that is many of the businesses along that stretch of Knoxville could take a higher level of service. Today, they're served by Route 4. We think it makes more sense to shift this busy route, Route 10, over to a busy corridor and benefit more people with the increased service and later hours than Route 4 has today. As a result, Route 4 would move over to the west and shift over to Sheridan Road. So there would be kind of a swap. Route 4 moves over to the west to Sheridan, south of Glen Ave, and then Route 10 moves east a couple of blocks over to Knoxville. So that would be the shift within those 2 routes. And the route that currently travels in between, that's actually Route 10, that segment would go away. Another major change in the Peoria area is the route that currently travels to the mall, as well as the shops at Grand Prairie. It's called Route 16, and it runs along the highway. So along the Interstate 74, it runs along that path and then goes out to first stops at the mall and then shops at Grand Prairie. Rather than have that express section where you're not able to stop the bus, we looked at instead extending Route 3, which is also pretty fast between downtown and Northwoods Mall, extending that route out to the shops at Grand Prairie. So that enables us to save a couple of buses and put them elsewhere. Another thing that I mentioned earlier was Route South to Peoria. Doesn't have a direct link to a grocery store, so Route 5 would provide that option, running along Sterling Ave, north of West Peoria. Routes 7 and 13 would be upgraded during the middle part of the day. And then the Peoria Airport and jail would be served by the same route, Route 15. Moving across the river to the east, Route 9 would be eliminated. This is one of the lowest ridership routes. It serves the east side portion of East Peoria, but Route 8 and Route 20 would continue to operate. There would only be a couple of minor tweaks in the Pekin area. All right, the next slide shows how some of the schedules would change, and it summarizes those in 3 key areas. So this graphic shows all routes between the hours of 5 a.m. and 12 a.m. on a weekday, and this is what's being proposed. So routes 1, 7, 10, and 13 would go from 60 minutes to 30 minutes, and that is being shown by the orange color. That represents 30 minutes service, whereas the lighter color is every 60 minutes. So those 4 routes would be frequent throughout the day. During the early evening hours of 5 to 6 p.m., several routes would be upgraded to 30 minutes. Routes 1, 3, 4, 5, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 20 would all see upgrades during that late afternoon time period, from 60 minutes to 30 minutes. And then after 6 p.m., all routes would be improved from every 75 minutes to every 60 minutes. Today, they all come together at the Downtown Transfer Center and easy connections can be made. That'll continue. They'll just be more frequent. They'll meet at the top of the hour or the bottom of the hour, and people can make transfers between any route. Now, if you only ride a couple of routes, you could also take a look at the summary of proposed changes. This is also on the project website, CityLink on the Move, and it summarizes either the route and or schedule changes for every single route in the system. Some have no major changes at all. And then I also want to point out that the changes that are being proposed for 2021 are really only the first step. This is a way to set the stage for increases in the future as more funding becomes available, and CityLink is able to add more buses, more drivers, and more hours of service. In the future, we've also outlined some of the key needs for extending some of the other bus routes, so sort of the second and third tier routes. So that would be increasing midday service on even more routes, so that Route 20 would be the next candidate for 30-minute service all day. And then just also expanding the weekend service, making sure that every route operates on the weekends and operates at least till 9 p.m., if not later. We've also identified several bus stops that should be prioritized with new shelters or accessibility improvements, such as sidewalks or connecting paths. So that concludes our overview of the proposed changes for 2021. Again, all of these changes are meant to improve service for most riders. We understand that some riders would be negatively impacted, and we'd love to hear from any of you who may have to experience some of those, so that we can see if there are ways that we can offset that. So with that, I'll hand it back over to staff, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So we did ask for, when you registered for the meeting, we asked for any public comments or feedback that you might have prior to, and we didn't receive any that we'll be reading this evening. But we are going to open it up and unmute all the callers, so that if you do have any questions or feedback, you can provide those to us. So just give us one moment and we will get you unmuted. And it looks like we have 2 people that are outside of CityLink that have joined us. Samir and then Chris Mitchell. So we'll let you each go one at a time if you do have any feedback.
Hello, this is Sammer. I guess I would just, I don't have a ton to say, but overall, it looks like a lot of positive changes. And so I'll just I'll go out and say, I don't ride CityLink a lot, but it's something I definitely think is important for our community, and would love for it to feel like more of an option, more of the, and so I think those are all good. I guess the only question I think I have is, or maybe 2 questions. One is, are there, in the trade-off to get these improvements, is there any destination that we're like is likely, or you've already heard will be coming up short on as far as providing coverage? And then the second piece being, you know, it's a lot of enhancement, and I realize you guys have worked to balance it, but you know, is there something going to be required in order to fund this difference that isn't certain, or is it, you know, a federal dollar expansion, or did it all balance within existing funding, those types of things?
So this is Joe, the planning administrator. To answer your first question, we have not received any responses from or feedback from anyone with, if I could say it, a negative impact towards them. One of the things about our existing system is that there's a lot of route duplication where they are going to the same locations. So with the proposed system, it cleans a lot of that up. And then your second question, this proposal is net neutral for us. Actually, I think we are reducing our revenue hours somewhat slightly. So there's not an additional expense to the agency to implement these changes.
Great, thanks.
And Chris, I know that you're also on this call. I know you're calling from a phone. Are you able to unmute yourself?
What?
Hi, Chris, we can hear you.
Okay. It sounds very interesting, and to have a lot of positives. Are there going to be any riders that are going to be asked to bring any concerns about the routes as they change? Is that an implication? I mean, will there be an opportunity to say, if I were to ride the bus and ride the route and could bring back comments or things that I noticed, would that be something that could happen as the new routes are implemented?
Yes, Chris, we are always open for feedback with the system and service. So we welcome any comments or feedback that passengers provide.
I know you've been really good to me. Excuse me. Sorry.
And just so you know, this information and this presentation is actually online on our website also. I know you're calling in over the phone, so if you get an opportunity and you have the ability to get to the website, you can review these slides and see the maps of the proposed routes also.
Okay. Thank you.
I did want to mention that there is an online survey option as well. So if you want to go ahead and take that survey, you can. It's very brief. It'll only take a few moments to do. And we have that link up there on the screen right now. It's a SurveyMonkey link, but that's also on CityLink on themove.org. That's the main website where you can go and check out all the information about these changes, and this presentation's on there as well. So if you want to view it again later, you can. I also wanted to share that we do have some upcoming meetings besides these virtual options. These are in-person meetings. The next one is going to be tomorrow at the Pekin Public Library from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. And then we have one on Friday at the East Peoria Civic Plaza, and that is going to be 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Those are the other two that we have this week. We are limiting the amount of attendees at a time, so it's limited to 25 people per meeting. And then next week we have some opportunities as well. Tuesday we are going to be at the Life Together Center on Sheridan Road from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then on Wednesday, we have two opportunities at the Transit Center for in-person. The first one is going to be from 9 to 11, and the second option is from 3 to 5 p.m. So, you're welcome to come to one of those two. If you want to come to an in-person option, we may be having to limit people even more if any rules change with COVID, but as of right now, we're limiting to 20 attendees at the Transit Center. And you will be able to be inside even though the lobby is closed, but it's limited to only people attending the public meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then if you do have any other questions, we do have Joe's contact information up on the screen right now. So you can always email Joe and provide any feedback. But we really appreciate you joining this call and providing us with feedback and for writing CityLink.
It's a really good organization.
Thank you, Chris. Well, if that's it, we'll go ahead and wrap things up. So thanks again for joining us, and stay tuned for more.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Uh-huh.